tabs.
Oh, all I got to do is point Chrome in the live streaming thing really quick at the correct.
Ooh, this is one of those articles that says a thing with no evidence, but sounds very correct.
Uh-oh.
It says remote work is widening the skills gap because it's like you're at home learning on your own. You're not getting help from anybody.
Yep. I think I've noticed things like that. I've also noticed that in general, a lot of people who aren't as like extroverted and social are starting to just disappear from conversations with remote work.
So
Yep. But as a result, they increase. Yeah. Well, if they want to have input in like the strategy or like how their work gets like what the work is, they seem to be slowly disappearing from those conversations. And the people who are more extroverted and like more online are tending to get their way just generally.
I mean, yeah, that's usually the case no matter what. But
Yep.
I think one way to get around that, which I think is appropriate regardless of whether you're working from home or not, is if you have a thing where you want everyone's input, then you make a thing and you're like, hey, everyone fill this out. It's a form with your particular input, right? Or, hey, I'm going to pass around this, whatever, thing.
Well, the other thing I've noticed as a weird aside is that because when I work from home,
the table, right? Let's hear from everybody.
So when I work from home,
you play one of those little silly games that they play when you have workshops. You like put Post-its on. Everyone puts Post-its up or shit like that.
So I've noticed a much bigger trend where most people working from home, even if the company buys them whatever equipment, just don't kind of like they're not live streamers, so they're often muffled. There's echoes. They're like you see up their nose on the webcam that's on their laptop, and in the big Brady Bunch, in my studio am well lit with spotlights and everyone can understand me crystal clear and everyone else is like mumbly or hard to understand because they don't have great microphones. So increasingly people seem to defer to me way more than they did when I was working in the office. And the only difference I can see.
If they see that you're like that, it's like they could do that if they tried and they don't, so they must not care.
Yeah. Or they don't know how. Like I could see that.
But you didn't know how. You Googled it.
True.
They could Google it.
Well, the thing is, I Googled it a decade ago. The only thing is I was willing to spend a lot of money. The setup was not cheap.
It's not that expensive.
Yeah, it's, let's see, the rim light. So $100 worth of lighting, $200 worth of that black screen behind me. That thing wasn't cheap. Anyway, let's get going. Let me put a little M here for Hornets and... It's Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we're talking about those anime magazines you all forgot about.
Comic magazines.
Also comic magazines. All right, you said you didn't open
today,
go for it.
You're not. For once, you're actually not ready.
Oh, you're good. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay. Now you're ready? Okay. So today I did something that I haven't done in almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. All right. So something involving the pre-COVID world.
Yeah. I went to my office where my employer rents office space.
Oh. And I was actually at my office today, but I go in like once every other week-ish, maybe.
I hadn't been there and I'm not going back there. It's unlikely I'll go back there ever? Question mark? Who knows? So I went there because apparently there were some people coming in. I don't know how many, but when I was there, I saw there's 2 floors and on the bottom floor where I worked, there were 2 human beings that I saw. One was eating and one was working on this giant office floor. Many, many desks. But I guess they had some people coming in and they wanted to clear out desks that hadn't been used because my stuff had just been sitting there like a little Scott museum.
Oh, we're doing something similar. People who haven't used their desk in a long time are getting moved to less great locations, it looks like.
Right. So they put my stuff into boxes into a closet, I guess. And I said, all right, I guess I'll come get it. So I went there and I didn't see the person who boxed them up, the office managing person. She was just like, yeah, I left your boxes in the kitchen area on that floor. Go get them.
Yeah.
And smartly, I brought some Fresh Direct bags with me because carrying boxes on the subway sucks. But
I love
the Fresh
how
Direct bags
Everyone in
able
New
to
York
add
City.
handles to the boxes.
Everyone
So
in New York City has like 50 fresh direct bags that we're using for all these
IKEA
kinds of
bag
tasks.
would also have worked.
Yeah, but the
IKEA
fresh
bag.
direct bag, like how often do you go to IKEA? I've got so many fresh direct bags, even considering how many we donated.
Yep. So yeah, I was able to add handles to the boxes and bring them home. But the thing is, now that they're home, it's like, ah, shit. I didn't even like. I remember all the things now that I see the things. I remember all these things, but I did not remember having all these fucking things. I have no use for these things at home.
Yep. It's like, let's see, what do I got at my
so
desk?
much garbage here.
I got a Goomba. I got a couple of plaques. I got some packs. You know what the saddest thing is? You know what's actually in my desk, like in my drawer right now? The Marantz, the microphones, and basically a lot of the shit that I brought to PAX East right before COVID.
I mean, you know, tchotchkes are one thing, but like I had a pair of shoes that were like the office only shoes.
My office only shoes are in my desk next to the Marantz. Well, one of the Marantzes. I got three
I got a
Marantzes.
salad bowl for the salad lunch place. There was a whole like very light hoodie thing that I forgot I had. There was
So when I went in today,
I
wore a jacket, like a sport jacket. When I got to work, an identical sport jacket that I'd left there was sitting, like hanging over the back of my chair because I'd left it there at some point in the past. So now I have two jackets hanging over that chair that are actually the same jacket.
Yeah. So there was so much junk there, and I don't need all this junk. So we're gonna bring back the segment Second Dibs. Here we go. Get ready. So I have for you today, if you're watching our stream on YouTube, you can see it. A keyboard, because obviously I wasn't going to use whatever shitty keyboard work gave me, right?
That looks like a nice keyboard.
Some Dell garbage, right? So this keyboard I bought in the year 2015. It is a 6-year-old keyboard. It is identical to the keyboard on my desk. I bought a second one of these. That's how much I liked it. It's a code WASD. It's a code keyboard by WASD Keyboards. Model V2B. It is a USB keyboard. It has the completely normal key layout with a numpad. Nothing strange about it. The keys, the switches in this one are a Cherry MX clear switches.
Clear.
The ones in the one on my desk are brown switches. I tested them and I prefer the brown, so the clear one's gonna go.
I use brown at work. I like brown. I mean, I prefer blue, ideally.
I had the clear ones at work, and then I bought the brown ones for home, and I think I do prefer the brown.
I forget, what's the deal with the clear ones? I actually forget which one that is.
It's basically the same as brown, only I think that the strength is different.
Okay. Anyway.
They feel a little mushier than the...
Oh, yeah, I like the clickier the better. That's why I like blue and black the most.
Well, I mean, yeah, I like blue the most, except for the noise. Otherwise, I would get blue.
I just live with the noise. But to my credit, I did not get blue at work because I feel like someone would have killed me.
Yeah. So the other thing, this keyboard has a bunch of dip switches on the back for various settings. So my favorite setting is the one that lets you turn the caps lock key in hardware into control or command or whatever. So that way you don't need to mess around. On Windows, you still need to do like some registry editing to remap the key. But you just remap it in hardware, it'll just work. You can also do other things like flip your Alt and Windows keys, things of that nature. You know, it's a micro USB keyboard. You get a cable. It comes with a cable, and I have it here for you. And micro USB goes into the keyboard, and the other end is whatever you want, probably regular USB.
Yeah.
It's a keyboard. It types. It's working perfectly. However, the only thing is, it is from 2015. So the keys are the original. The keycaps are the original ABS keycaps, and they've been A, sitting in an office, and B, were touched by my grubby hands for years and years. So they're all shiny and kind of gross.
Yeah, that shininess. You just got to live with it.
You can clean them if you want to, but what I recommend you do is get this keyboard from me and then go online and do what I did to my other keyboard, the one I have at home right here, and buy some PBT keycaps, right, made of the different plastic, not the ABS plastic, and they'll never get shiny, and they have that nice texture to them. And I'll give you the keycap swapping tool also, because I have a whole pile of them. So you can swap all the keys on it really easily. Just go online and find any, Cherry MX compatible keycap set for a 104 key keyboard with the colors that match your preference. that are made of PBT. Oh, and the keyboard has a backlight, so you want to get some double shot ones. That way the light will shine through the lettering on the keys. Right? If you don't get a double shot one, the lights will sort of be like, because there's a little LED in every single key. So if you don't get double shot keys, the light will be really meh. You're sort of wasting it, right? So, yeah, this keyboard available. I don't know. I guess, if really no one wants it, it could be free. But actually, it costs a lot of money to buy it. I'll sell it for some amount of money. Like what? How much did this thing fucking cost me?
I don't even know. I don't, especially with COVID getting in my way, like I kind of forget what things cost because I own everything I need and I don't go anywhere.
In the year 2015, it cost $170.
That's a lot more than I paid for my fancy keyboard.
Well, that was with tax. Let's see what they charge for them brand new at the WASD website. Let's see, WASD keyboards, mechanical keyboards.
All right, look at what my keyboard costs now.
Yeah, they charge like $100. They still charge $185 for the current model of this keyboard. So,
all right, the new DOS keyboards are around the same amount of money. It looks like.
Yeah. Okay, and actually they're that's without keycaps, they're charging $130.
Though the keyboard I own was only $120. So Mr. La-di-da with his fancy keyboard.
Well, I don't need the money that badly, and this is also really old and used. So I mean, what, $50, right? Maybe 70 at the most, something like that. If you need a mechanical keyboard, come contact me.
All right. So a little bit of news.
I got a lot more junk here to get rid of too. We'll see about that in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, and the listener who took the monitor from last time seemed to be very happy with it. So
not bad.
This is a good program.
The problem is the things I want to give away are too low quality.
Yeah, I got low quality things to give away, but most of them I gave away on Facebook Marketplace. Someone came yesterday and got the Ethernet cable that used to connect from in my bedroom at Beacon all the way down the hallway, all the way across the hallway, all the way over to the cable.
I remember that Ethernet cable.
The mega long beat up Ethernet cable. Like it still worked. I tested it. I don't know how long it was. Ridiculously long. Someone came and took it for free. I'm like, here you go. They were very happy.
All right. So before we get to some news, I got a little geek bite because I continue to watch a lot of cartoons that Scott doesn't watch. And other than, Rick and Morty, well, I'll talk about in another show, like now that it had a big finale and changed everything up and pissed off all the fanboys. But Star Trek Lower Decks, I finally watched some of this show. And what I got to say about it is, if you're not a fan of Star Trek, I have no idea.
I thought when you said Lower Decks, I was like, I thought it was a pirate show.
No, it is. So it's literally, you've seen some Star Trek, and I don't really like Star Trek, but it's always focused on like the important ship and the officers running the important ship. Like it's always the big mucky-mucks.
And this is basically on an important ship, but it's focused on people who die.
This is on like the second tier ship, like the ship that comes in after First Contact to literally deal with the follow-up to First Contact, like that kind of thing. Like boldly going where the Enterprise just went.
Oh, so it's not even the same ship. It's like another ship.
Yeah, well, also, you realize all the Star Treks are like completely different ships. One of them is not even on a ship. It's on a space station. Like,
yeah, I know.
Okay. So anyway, this show is about like the low-ranking, like, grunts just like sleeping in hallways and like doing the normal job. But it fits all of that pretty well within the canon of Star Trek, which is actually pretty interesting. So the way the show...
I'm about to ask, like, I know enough about Star Trek to know that it's basically space communism paradise utopia.
It is.
Why would you take that job if you were a human being and not like a robot?
Because those jobs still require extreme skill. Think like...
but why would you want it? That answers why they need it. It's not why would you do it.
Well, the same reason why would someone
live in space communist utopia on Earth?
Yeah. So if you've watched Star Trek, the answer to that question is just the same as the answer in They Were 11. Most people just live in space communism, don't give a shit. The people who are bored with that are the people who join Starfleet.
Right. If I was bored with it, it would make sense why I would be Captain Picard or whatever. But
yeah, how do you think Captain Picard got there? He went up through
the engine room on the Enterprise. Because why would I want to do that?
Because everyone at the top goes through all of that to learn how the fuck everything works along the way. The lowest ranking Starfleet officer is still the best of the best of the best of the best.
But if you're just gonna die before you can be captain,
they don't die. The red shirt thing was mostly the original show. They're they don't. There is not a high body count in like
Space is very dangerous.
yeah, and also they have a lot of technology. And anyway, the way the show progresses is it both
Earth safe.
it makes fun of Star Trek canon pretty directly. It's full of references that anyone who's watched like the existing canon of Star Trek will get, understand, and appreciate. It is earnestly funny, but it's also like it fits pretty well into the canon of Star Trek, and it looks like they're taking great pains to not break any of the canon, so where this show plausibly like is in the same universe as Next Generation or Voyager or whatever. So
if you're not a Star Trek fan, though, it's gonna be a miss. Like you won't get it.
I feel like if you're not a Star Trek fan, but you're a fan of science fiction comedy, I think you would still find the show engaging and funny. Like, I think the jokes, kind of like we talked about Spider-Man on another show, most people in America, at least, have a passing understanding of Star Trek, so that if they watch this, they'll get enough of it to where it'll still be funny and make sense. Kind of like if
You just won't get the inside jokes.
yeah, like
the
you won't
jokes.
get the inside jokes. Like you won't really get like the fact that someone says they're serving on the Voyager is really funny. But you'll get like, yeah, that's probably the name of a ship. And wasn't that the ship in that other show I didn't watch or I heard of? Like, but the voice acting is funny. It's really rapid fire. There's a lot of characters and seems like it's got a good thing going on. I would recommend it if you even passingly enjoy Star Trek. The humor is also quite dark, and I appreciate that. So, in some other big anime news that we just haven't had a chance to talk about yet, there's a live-action Cowboy Bebop that is actually happening.
Yeah, I don't even know if this qualifies as anime news because it's not anime. It's not animated. It's a live-action TV show that Netflix is making. It just happens to be an adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. Now, usually, I'd say 99.99% of the time, the thing I say is like, why? Why does this need to be done? It's like you can just show Cowboy Bebop. Why do you need to remake it? Right? It's like if you think there's money to be made from this property, then just take what already exists and just fucking show it to people. People who haven't seen it won't know that it's old. Just pretend it's new, right?
Well, especially it's a trend you saw in America a lot where a lot of just basic people just sort of have this idea that animation is for kids and that the animated version of something is inferior. So if something's mature enough or good enough, then there'll be a live action version of it and that's the one they'll watch. Like that idea has been like very pernicious in America in particular, and it's not uncommon in the rest of the world either.
Yep.
So
and also on top of that, right? It's like, why does this need to be done? Right? Is the first question, which I still don't see why it needs to be done ever. But B, most of the time when people do it, it's garbage. There's very, very few, if any, live action adaptations of things that were originally animated properties that are any fucking good, right? So you got your like live action Disney remakes of Disney animated films.
Except those are animated. They're just 3D CG, photorealistic. They're not live action.
I'm just saying, there's, it's
just funny that so many people, like, this gets back into that other problem. A lot of Americans refer to those Disney movies as the live action versions because they fall into that same trope of, well, they took this old good Disney thing, but now they made it real. But it's still literally just 3D CG. It's still an animated cartoon.
Yep. You got your, there's a live action Ghost in the Shell. It exists. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I have no intention of seeing it.
I have no intention of seeing it also.
The best I've heard is I think that Battle Angel Alita, like people I trust said it was better than they expected, and that's as far as I got.
Battle Angel Alita was not, I don't think there's is there an anime for that? I thought just a manga.
I've never actually seen any of it. It was like, that's not the kind of anime.
I've read a couple volumes of the manga. I don't know if there's an anime of it or not. There might be. Regardless, right? Is that there's not a lot of success going that route.
Yeah.
Right. So why do this? But the only thing I got to say about this particular instance is that judging based on the materials and the facts and information that they have released so far,
especially information that was released today that I'm about to touch on. I don't know if you saw this.
For example, they told us Yoko Kanno was involved in the music, right? We've seen the cast. We've seen shots from, production shots of what it looks like. And the indication is that this is probably, likely, can't guarantee, it could still be garbage, This is likely as good as anyone's ever done on this kind of endeavor.
Yep, but the most important thing,
good, I guess.
and I'll link to the article that was on Anime News Network today, the showrunners have confirmed that it is not going to be a remake of any of the animated show. It's just going to be more of that show. All original stories in that universe, canonically expanding it without necessarily remaking any of it.
Canonically, we'll see.
The article says that it will, quote, expand the canon. They said it is expansion to the canon of the anime, adding original stories. It will not be a full-on remake, saying that, quote, just redoing the anime will leave the audience hungry for something they already saw. That's a very promising sign right there, because
the fact that there's self-awareness by the people who wrote that, right?
Because if there is a possibility, much like, Evangelion had the movie remakes, and we're going to talk about those 2 weeks from now, but we might be in a situation when this all comes out.
They're rebuilt.
I was making quote motions. You couldn't see. Anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a possibility, there's a future where we will see that Cowboy Bebop consists of this animated show, this one animated movie, and this one live action show, and they all complement each other. Like, that is possible.
My hope is that somehow, right, obviously this is going to appeal to people who already enjoy Cowboy Bebop and just want more. And
oh yeah, but imagine the kind of basic person who won't watch cartoons, sees this, loves it because like everything about it looks great if you've never heard of the anime, and then Netflix is like, hey, did you know this was based on this Japanese cartoon?
Right. If this gets even some people to watch the original, then I guess it's worth it, right? People who wouldn't have watched the original ever otherwise without this existing, then I guess it's a positive.
Yeah.
Even if it sucks. In itself, right?
And the other thing, I'll just say that I'm going to list some things they talked about that make it clear this definitely takes place during the show and not after the final episode, because there are...
You don't say.
I mean, there are actors for several characters who definitely could not be in the show were this show to take place after the end of Cowboy Bebop, much like the Cowboy Bebop movie.
Have my, let's run a Space Runaway Ideon. It takes place after the last episode. Let's run an Evangelion. Yeah, it takes place after the last season 3. We'll say
Evangelion 2. It takes place right after end of Evangelion, Death and Rebirth, right. Like that.
Exactly.
Granted, if they announced that and Anno was behind it, I would watch it. But
you can't have a movie called Attack the Tokyo Gas Station that's a sequel to Godzilla. It's like the gas station ain't there anymore.
So I know you didn't watch it. One could argue that if there were a sequel to End of Evangelion, Death and Rebirth, it could canonically be The Good Place.
You should finish watching these rebuilds before you say anything.
You should watch The Good Place before you say anything.
Yeah.
That is a top tier, like S-rank show.
Anyway.
I do not say that lightly about a live action show in America.
In some actual anime news.
Yep.
Something we've asked for, right? We've got a situation where
the monkey's paw has curled a finger here.
Situation, right? We went to the genie and we asked for something, and the genie said, okay, here you go.
Monkey's paw, give me an anime about hockey.
Right. So there's plenty of sports anime out there, plenty of sports manga, and there have been many sports manga about ice hockey, quite a few, but they've never been translated to English. I've seen them, though, in their original forms, but obviously couldn't read them. I don't know if there are fan translations either. So I've been waiting for an ice hockey anime. We got a bicycling anime that wasn't too bad. It was fun. It wasn't like legendary good, but Yo Pedal is fun. I like it. They didn't finish the anime, though. They sort of stopped, which left me disappointed. But anyway, ice hockey anime is coming. Hooray! Bad news. It's going to be a garbage anime.
So at first I looked at this.
Like Yoa Pedal.
I looked at this and it's definitely like a moe show. Like it'll be hockey and it'll probably have scenes like, Senpai, how do pucks work? Let's talk about the curve of a stick. Like it's going to be really, really moe anime crap, I suspect, but there's
also tied into some like microtransaction video.
So lately, there's been a trend where The red flag that an anime is going to be bad is if it is actually part of a mixed media project, because usually that means it's actually a mobile game and the anime is just promoting the mobile game.
Exactly. That's exactly.
C2C is animating this thing, and if you look at things C2C has animated, it is things like that. I don't think any of these are good.
This is not going to be a good story with good characters that have any sort of fun to them or anything interesting, right? It's just going to be, but it's ice hockey, right? It's like, please, can't you make a Haikyuu or a Yuri on Ice or a Yoa Pedal level of quality, but make it ice hockey? Why can't you do that, right? A free, even make a free ice hockey, right?
I've said that for years. I want to see an anime with the production quality of free, but it's either hot boys playing hockey or hot boys skiing, like professional ski competition.
Ooh, skiing anime.
It's like wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Yeah, it's like there's many different kinds of sports anime, and the only kind that's not any good is the kind that they decided to finally make ice hockey. It's like, come on. So very disappointing. Just avoid this show. Do we even say the name of the show? What's it called?
It is called, where'd I put it? Puraore, Pride of Orange.
Right. Yeah, we don't need this. Also, the orange part bothers me because that's the Philadelphia Flyers colors. They can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, I think the team they play for is called the Dream Monkeys.
At least that's a funny name.
Yeah. I am.
If we go bowling and we need a team name, we'll put Dream Monkeys.
I will watch one episode of this, but I am confident it is bad. If somehow I watch that one episode and I have a desire to watch more than one episode, I will eat my fucking hat.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't done and probably won't do Judge Anime by its cover, but we would be like, there's no way that the judge is wrong on this one.
Yep. And if you're wondering why we're not doing more Judge Anime by its cover, so remember when I complained about how even just like a review of an anime where we had a single screenshot got taken down with a copyright strike from these companies? Judge Anime by its cover, I've gotten copyright takedowns from screenshots that are tiny and blurry and in the background.
I've never gotten any copyright message whatsoever for any Judge Anime by its cover episode.
Even the Judge Anime by its cover video that didn't even have the slides in it from an Anime Boston got copyright takedowns.
None of my Judge Anime by its covers that are on my channel have had any notices, takedowns. If I still was monetizing, I would be able to monetize them.
That is fascinating. That's honestly fascinating.
My channel is a safe space for anime judging.
All right. But also, Judge Anime by its cover, honestly, was only popular at conventions. It wasn't that popular on the internet for a lot of reasons.
I don't care how popular it is. I just care if I liked making it. It was a little bit of a hassle to make.
It was a lot of effort to make. And yeah, anyway. Things of the day. So I bumped into this. It's just a short 52-second YouTube video. And the best way I can describe this is it's a skit that's very funny. And it asks a fundamental question. And the question is, why do we do this to ourselves as humans? And the thing that we do to ourselves is as soon as we wake up, reach over, find our phone, and turn it on, and look at the words and images that are presented to us on this phone as the first thing we do.
I do that, yeah.
Yeah. So if you watch this video, you'll see what I mean. The video is very apt and very funny. It is a very
doing that.
Yeah. I also do this, but you'll see when you watch this video.
I do it with an iPad, and also thanks to iOS 15 that just came out, they have a new focus feature. So, and I don't really care about the focus. It's meant to be like where you enable or disable different notifications for different apps and different scenarios, right? So, it's like, oh, I'm doing this now, so I only want these notifications. That's what it's meant for. But one of the side features that they just added is the ability to set. You can set many different home pages on your phone or your tablet, and then when you can assign a subset of those pages to a particular focus mode. So, like, I could have a indoor biking focus mode, and if I choose that, suddenly the home page on my phone will literally just be the apps I need for indoor biking and Spotify and nothing else, right? So what I did is I created a morning focus mode. So when I wake up, it actually automatically and intelligently on its own enters the morning focus mode. And in a
Ooh.
row are all the apps that I check every morning, and then widgets I need with information I want to see every morning, like weather, calendar, tasks, that sort of thing. And it's pretty good so far. I've used it for 2 days, maybe.
I will try that out. The package that arrived today is either my new iPhone or the MagSafe battery for my new iPhone.
Oh, they didn't come together? Oh.
Yeah, they shipped separately, and one of the two arrived. I did not look to check which one it is yet.
Okay. So yeah, did I do thing of the day?
Yeah, you did. Dua Lipa.
All right. So, but I didn't actually do it. Now I have to do it.
Now you got to do it.
If you don't know, Dua Lipa is a singer, songwriter person who makes dancey, cool music. You either don't know them. If you do know them, you like them. Maybe you don't like them. Who knows? I like Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa's cool. Dua Lipa, I think, is like my perspective is Dua Lipa. She is the master.
Wait. What's YouTube saying here? There's a thing on the bottom. It says she's on tour. Oh, this is March 1st. It's just old. Never mind.
Yeah, Dua Lipa is the master of collaborations. Like, in terms of like featuring on other people's tracks, getting people to feature on her tracks, but also doing like fashion collaborations. It'll be like, oh, such and such brand X Dua Lipa. Like, he like joins with everybody and makes all these deals. And I feel like that's how, like, I've never actually seen like Dua Lipa stuff that was just Dua Lipa. Like, here I am. It was always, something X Dua Lipa, right? Every single time. And that's the only reason I knew she existed to begin with, because of so many. She kept reappearing paired with other things that I did already know. So really good agent and business dealing going on over there in Dua Lipa's territory, I got to say. But my thing of the day is Dua Lipa is fundamentally a singer-songwriter and has a new music video for a song called Levitating. And the music video is an animated music video. It is 100% 2D animation, and it is a strong, perhaps copyright infringing Sailor Moon homage.
Oh, the aesthetic of this hits me right in the soul, like so hard. This is like a weapon against me.
I'm surprised that if this wasn't Sailor Moon X Dua Lipa, right, with an official partnership, I'm surprised they don't come at her with some kind of lawsuit, because wow, it's literally just a Sailor Moon music video.
It is so good. This aesthetic is everything.
Not bad either. Pretty good song. So check this out.
In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book is still The Tale of Genji, but
I read some yesterday.
Yeah, I've read some as well.
Stuff was happening.
I think we'll be able to talk about it pretty soon. I still worry that my opinion, like most books I read, my opinion changes, and then as I get to the end, I have like a final thought. But I hit this point where there's nothing different I'll say except for reacting to specific things Genji did and trouble he got into along the way. But I do know that something's going to happen not too far from where I am that radically changes everything. But I also haven't decided if I'm even going to read past that point, because it's not even clear if that is canonically part of the original novel.
It was, there's this stuff going on with that, right? But I figured everything on these pages was written by the same author and was,
There's a point near the end beyond which there seems to be dispute about that.
I mean, possibly. Who the fuck knows? It was so long.
There's a character who dies.
Yeah, I'm going to read everything in the whole book, but that is there. But
yeah, I'm just saying it is possible that everything after a certain character dies might not have been written by the same person. And I was reading a bunch of stuff about this, but I got to read more to like sort out my thoughts on that. So I haven't decided anything yet.
I think part of the problem is that the character, the plot keeps progressing, things keep happening, but there isn't too much in the way of character development. Like, characters are who they are.
Genji has never at any point learned anything.
Right. It's like none of the characters like change, they might change their mind and do a different thing, but
or some of them get killed by ghosts. Sometimes that happens.
Right. Things happen to people do things, but people are who they are, and that's it. And I haven't seen anyone
there is one character who is developing, but it is too creepy to even get into right now who that is and how they're developing.
Yeah, so that is what sort of makes it, it's like you're reading more. Well, your opinion won't change because it's sort of like soap opera, like things are happening, right? It's like the events.
Which it's interesting because in a way, that's how a good chunk of another very long book that I read long ago, The Count of Monte Cristo, is, in that it's just a very, very straightforward, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And
Something else, right? That was
and the
also
Count himself is
originally
not
in parts.
the Count is not changing or evolving in any way. He's just great, and he is doing his plan, and at no point is he changing his plan. He's just adapting the plan. But then at the very end of the book, I guess spoilers for The Count of Monte Cristo, he changes his plan and evolves as a character. But that doesn't happen until like the last 100 pages of the book. And the book has many times 100 pages.
Yep. Anyway,
otherwise, we're not planning to go to any conventions, obviously. You can see our most recent PAX panel on the YouTube. We just linked to it, Atari Game Design. I am working on a panel that will either debut or maybe I'll debut because it's a topic Scott doesn't care about that much. But I gathered, I think, I need to play one more game and get enough footage to do the analysis. And then I'm ready to rock on this thing.
all right. Working on things. I'm not, but I can't shit talk anything, right? So I'm not going to say what I'm working on, if I'll finish it.
Notice I did not say what this panel is about specifically to cover my own ass.
What things? Is it panels? Is it, who knows what it is? But yeah, I have spent hours of my time producing works of some nature.
Yep.
In recent days, I have done that. Will you see those works? I don't know.
I'm a little sidelined by the fact that we're about to get a new couch, and also it's warm, so I'm spending most of my time outside, but very soon...
It's still warm, late September. So.
Yeah. Now, when it gets cold, I'm also outside all the time because I'll be skiing, but we're about to enter that magic era not too long from now where it's too cold to do the things I like to do outside, but not cold enough to do the other things I like to do outside. And that is the most productive Rim is ever in his life.
Here is also another fact that is not a lie.
Ooh.
I have 18 paid time off days I have to use before the end of the year, unless my company again extends rollover beyond the normal 10 days.
Oh, if my company lets me roll over more than 5 days, I'm rolling over like all the days I got left.
We are also, my company always by default does not work between Christmas and New Year's. It is very likely that I will simply not work in December, in which case it is more likely that I may make something in December.
Yep.
With no promise whatsoever, I may lay on the couch for December.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll admit that I've enjoyed being less productive and creative and doing less creative output for a few months and enjoying myself more, but I'm feeling that itch like pretty hard again. So
all right, so let's talk about some magazines in the categories relating to cartoons, comics, anime, etc. So in the United States, historically, there have not been too many of them, and at least not too many that were like big. If you look in your comic book, if you run a comic book store and you look at the order form for Diamond Diamond is in trouble now because they lost all their deals.
Yeah.
There are a lot of small publishers making extremely niche magazines, right? Like there's like a James Bond magazine that keeps coming out. It's like, what fuck content do you have for that? I guess there's a new James Bond movie now, but it's
it's kind of like how there are still Firefly podcasts to this day.
Right, and there are some issue comic books magazines out there, like this Back Issue magazine or something, and it's like for the extreme comic nerds out there, right? And I think some of these are quarterlies. They're really narrow, and I don't know much about them. But in terms of major ones, we can list them, and I'm gonna we're gonna go through these sort of historically as like when I encountered them in life, right? So the first one I really encountered in life was Wizard Magazine. You ever read Wizard Magazine?
I read Wizard Magazine because back then there was no internet. I couldn't learn about any of this stuff.
So I didn't actually read. I never bought Wizard Magazine. Like at the time, it's weird because like I was in middle school. If I saw a Wizard Magazine, I was interested in the contents of that magazine. Other people had them, other nerds I knew, and I might skim them and read them when I was at a kid's house or something. But I never felt the need to buy or subscribe to Wizard Magazine.
I similarly would read them at friends' houses, or occasionally I'd read them in bookstores, though I don't remember if Wizard did this specifically, but a lot of the magazines like this I used to read in bookstores started coming in plastic sleeves that prevented me from reading them in the bookstores. Wow, Wizard actually ended in 2011, and also it didn't start till 1991. It started later than I thought.
Yeah, and also Wizard ran those conventions, which remember Wizard World Philly. That was the same Wizard. right? So I always thought it was strange, first of all, the name, in that we had Dungeon Magazine, we had Dragon Magazine, right?
Now,
And
Dungeon Magazine was adventures for D&D. Dragon Magazine was commentary and articles about D&D. Wizard Magazine had nothing to do with wizards or dungeons
Wizard
or
Magazine
dragons.
had to do with comic book stores. It's like, what?
But I
it's called
also,
Wizard.
like, I have memories of, like, knowing about Wizard, flipping through it and everything, but I am hard-pressed to say anything that I learned ever from looking inside a Wizard magazine in my entire life.
Wizard Magazine.
I feel like it was a kid
literally-
brain thing where I would just flip through it and not internalize anything.
Yeah, it was the most like, consumerist, collectorist, not mainstream, because comic books weren't mainstream, but mainstream in terms of the comic world, right? It was like, yeah, superheroes, yeah, collect stuff and put it in bags, and, buy ultra rare cocoa beans, and magazine is 90% ads.
Yep.
Everything is great. Buy stuff, right? That's what it was.
See, also, like, in the gaming space, like, I always, like, Wizard was one step less bad than what Scryed, which was literally just, here's how much people are selling every fucking Magic card for.
Yeah, well, Scryed isn't anime, so we're not talking about
Oh,
that.
yeah, but, like, similar, like, it's aimed at this consumerist demographic.
It was not, Wizard Magazine wasn't talking about any indie comics, right? It's like, it was either Marvel, it was DC, or it was Spawn, and otherwise it wasn't in there, right? It's like they weren't trying to teach you anything. They were just trying to make you buy something you already like. So you liked these comics, you bought Wizard, to get news about the things you already liked in the pre-internet era, and then you would buy more shit. And that's what Wizard was.
But at least that news was also available in other places. Animerica, for me, was way more
You're
important.
skipping over a lot of magazines.
All right, I'll follow your list then.
Okay, so there was another thing called the Comics Journal, which is from the 90s. I don't know if it still exists. And what this was is you go to the comic book store and you check out, and they give you a bag with the comic book store's logo on it, right? That's how they do. And then in with your comic books, they would put this thing that was like, a few pages of newsprint for free. That was the comic news.
I've never seen or heard of the
Comic
comic.
Shop News.
I'll admit, I've never
Comic
seen
Shop
or
News,
I've never seen
CSN.
or heard of the Comics Journal until now.
Well, the Comic Journal is different. This is Comic Shop News. So
Okay.
Comic Shop News was this free piece of shit newspaper thing that was only a few pages they'd put in there. And I don't remember what the contents of it were, even though they gave it to me every single time I went to the comic shop and I looked through it. I think it was mostly ads, obviously, because it was free. But like, I don't know what the hell was in that thing.
Yeah, I don't
read
think
it
my
many
comic
times.
shop gave any of that stuff out. Like, I just don't remember Comic Shop News
It was
either.
a very 90s thing, the Comic Shop News. So yeah, the Comics Journal was something else. I didn't encounter the Comics Journal till much later, but it is quite old. I don't know if it exists anymore. It had times where it went like digital only, I think. But this is made by Fantagraphics, and this was like, it was thick, right? And this was like indies.
Well, because it was a
only.
biannual magazine.
Yeah, and they'd be like deep interviews with like indie comics people, like pages and pages long. That was like, the real deal biz, the Comics Journal, right? And it went on for, biannual, but it had like hundreds of issues, I think, right? It went on for a long.
It's still going.
It's still going, okay, because I know it had troubles going in and out of print and digital.
Oh yeah, apparently they got sued a lot too. They got sued multiple times by comic artists who were mad about reviews or statements made about them.
Because this was a real deal thing. It wasn't some rah-rah spend money wizard
Rich
garbage.
Buckler sued them because they called him a plagiarist showing his art side by side with Jack Kirby art, and he sued them over it. And trying to see if he won. I don't think he won that lawsuit.
Yeah, so if you want to do some research on what was really going on, especially in the indie comic scene back in the day, Comics Journal, that was the real stuff.
Yeah, and the thing I have to say about that kind, like in general, like these types of magazines, is that they are really important for research, like modern research into the history of comics, the scenes at the time, because they're like,
it's not quite an academic journal,
but they're just, they're an
but
artifact.
it's not a magazine either.
They're an
And it's not a
artifact with
newspaper.
so much contemporary information about like a particular year in comics that like a researcher could have a field day cross-referencing this with other information.
Yeah. And it's like the amount of work that goes into making this thing versus what they charge for it is like just so dramatically, imbalanced, right? I was surprised, like, how long it went on. Like, wow, it's like it's someone's whole job to like work really hard to make this thing, and they're probably getting almost no money for it, right? So the Comics Journal is definitely worth looking into, even back issues of it, right? Whatever you can get. I think there is archives of it you can pay for or get somewhere.
I guess
available.
I guess part of it is that I really didn't read a lot of superhero comics until actually like high school and later. I was so deep into anime that anime magazines are where I have the most like nostalgia and memories.
So, I guess actually, you know what? Something I mentioned I didn't put on the list here that's worth at least mentioning a little bit is TV Guide, which obviously has no place in modern society. And is it dead? It should be dead. If it's not dead, it's close to it, right?
I mean, we stopped getting TV. Like we even stopped as like we grew up in the late 1900s, and TV Guide just stopped appearing in our house right when we moved to like.
We never bought it. We just used the newspaper's TV section.
Oh, we subscribed to it and we used it.
We did not, but it did have parts of it were not just the guide part. Parts of it were talking about shows and stuff, and would occasionally talk about animated shows. So it is not an animation magazine, but parts of it were occasionally.
TV Guide is how I would find out if an animated show I like would continue the next year or not. Like that was, or if it moved like a show would move, like you kids don't understand what it was like in the 90s when you'd watch a TV show like a cartoon like Mask or something, or even the 80s that you liked. Cartoon, it's on TV, you watch it. Every week it's on like Saturdays at 7 a.m. or whatever. And then one day, you turn on the TV at that time, and your show's not on. There was almost no way to figure out what happened if there's a different way to watch it, except by reading something like TV Guide.
Yeah, it's like, is Sci-Fi Channel going to show in the late 90s? Are they going to show some 80s cartoons at 6 a.m. on Sci-Fi Channel? There's no way for you to know that unless you have TV Guide.
I remember. You know why we stopped?
You happen to flip to the channel at the right time.
I remember exactly when we stopped getting TV Guide. Where we lived in Michigan, similar to how we got cable modems really early nationally. We got cable really early, and there was one of those early cable channels that would just scroll through.
The cable channel tells you what's on, yeah.
Yep, and once we had access to that channel, TV Guide just stopped appearing in our houses.
Yeah, so we never bought it, but I always see it at the grocery store. Anyway, so there was a Nickelodeon magazine, which is somewhat animation related. It was mostly just a kids' entertainment magazine, from what I remember. I think my brother might have gotten it for a year or so.
My brother got it too. I remember like half reading it, like I'd skim through it.
It was animation related, and it did, I don't know how much it counts, but more importantly, there was Disney Adventures. So I never bought Disney Adventures, but I did see it on the checkout aisle at the grocery store. And it was sort of a digest size deal, like an Archie Comics thing. And it was really interesting in that even though it was called Disney Adventures, I never actually bought it, but I would look at it occasionally. It had comics in the back, right? And those comics were often like Tailspin comic, right? It's like there was good shit in there comics wise. And I'm wondering now that I haven't thought about this magazine in decades, if those comics, some of which were good, are like compiled anywhere that you can get, because some of them are probably worth reading today. But in the front part, there was entertainment news targeted at kids, and it wasn't exclusive to Disney. Even though it was Disney Adventures magazine, they would be telling you shit about like all kids media, like other cartoons and things that were going on. So if you were a kid and you were into, cartoons in the United States, and this magazine was still in print, which it is not, it was really like, if I was born 5 years later, I probably would have had this magazine and, learned all kinds of stuff about what was going on, like new shows coming, going, movies coming out, all kinds of stuff.
There's a whole list of all the original, like not based on an existing Disney property comics in there. Little Gloomy, Society of Horrors, The Last Laugh, Luna Park, Kid Blastoff, Gorilla.
This was basically, if you want to think about Disney Adventures magazine, it was like the print version of Disney Afternoon. Right? It was pretty good actually, right? Yeah. Even though I didn't buy it ever, I knew enough of it that I knew that it was the real deal. So you can probably easily get, I don't know if people are scanning it. I hope.
So it looks like they released back in the day 7 volumes that collected all the comics that were in them. It looks like.
Oh, nice. Okay.
This might have been a long time ago, but I'll bet there's a way to get these
hard
comics.
To get also, but the library probably has them or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna bookmark this to remember to look into to inquire about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's largely forgotten. I haven't seen anyone mention it. I bet if I tweet like, "Hey, I do remember Disney Adventures magazine," it might blow up. Anyways, let's talk about the actual anime shit now, right? So I did not think about anime magazines at all.
See, now this is where Scott and I sort of switched places, because I turned into a weeb when I was in 4th grade, which was a long fucking time ago.
I knew anime was a thing, earlier.
But when?
When Akira came out in the U.S. was
yeah, I was a little bit. I was a bit before that.
Was that 80 something, right? Late 80s, early 90s. Who knows? I knew anime existed, but I didn't actually have access to anime. I would go to the comic shop and you see those Ranma VHSs there, but I didn't buy or watch those, even though I knew they were there, right? Dragon Ball was on, whatever, but I wasn't watching. Sailor Moon was on. I didn't actually watch that either. I watched Voltron and Macross, Robotech, whatever. But I didn't actually watch Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon, even though they were on TV.
But I went by the time I was in middle school, I was already mailing strangers on the internet to get VHS tapes back. But it was a weird world because, again, late 1900s, I knew anime existed. And I was obsessed with it, and I would get as much as I could. I couldn't buy it.
Anytime Sci-Fi Channel showed anime, whatever, I'd try to watch it.
Literally watched every single anime that was in the local video stores, which was not that many, like maybe 20 tapes total. And I'd watch them all multiple times. Like, I was obsessed. But this was pre-internet, and even as the internet started to appear more and more, there was very little reliable or factually correct information about anime in America.
Most of it was just be like a little GeoCities fan site with.
It was fan sites.
You're lucky it'll be some JPEGs. Right?
But even worse, the fan sites would have content like, here's screenshots, or like, here's an RM video of 10 seconds of the opening animation to like Ranma. But
I'm a fan of the thing. Here's the thing. I'm writing my thoughts about it.
But also, nobody in America except people who were professionals knew shit about it, and kids would make stuff up about anime. So you couldn't even trust the information you could find.
Yep.
Animerica.
There were zines made by some smaller organizations.
I was too young to find zines.
And I had no access to those though.
I was going to gaming cons in the early 90s, but I didn't go to anime cons until 2002. So
I didn't even know an anime con was.
Scott and I at RIT learned that anime cons existed when the people who ran the RIT Anime Club were like, "Hey, let's go to the anime convention," and we were like, "What? Yeah. There are anime conventions? Oh shit! Fuck!"
Before I went to college, the idea of a con, it's like I sort of understood because there were cartoons that made fun of them, like that there were Star Trek cons.
Yep.
And I understood that there was Magic tournaments because I went to one.
And I was going to a lot of.
I understood that there were baseball card, pro wrestling figure trade show type things because I went to some.
Yep.
But I didn't fully understand that there were cons. And when I was in the year 2000 in college, they're like something Otakon, OhioCon, whatever. I didn't fully understand what the hell they were talking about, and I don't remember how I ended up going to them.
Yeah. I went to a lot of gaming cons, which honestly, not that different from what I do at PAX's today, except they're the old Grognard gaming cons where you'd have to schedule in advance and tickets, and they're very Gen Con-esque, just like shittier and smaller. Like I went to Michigan a bunch of times, but
somehow I understood they existed, but I had never conceived of going to it. Right?
But because of this dearth of actual reliable information, it was very hard for me to engage with anime other than getting as much as I could and watching it, but I didn't have sources to know who was involved, who directed something. It was just hard to find out those kinds of things.
What other anime are available that I don't know about?
Animerica was the first time I encountered any reliable source of information about anime in my entire life, and this started in the early 90s.
Yeah, so I didn't know Animerica existed till we were in college. I skimmed it a few times here and there when it was lying about, but I never bought it. And why? I should have bought it. Why didn't I buy it?
I couldn't afford it. I would read other people's copies. Especially in high school, I knew people who subscribed to it, and I would get their leavings.
It made no sense. I should have subscribed to, Wizard I don't like, but I should have subscribed to that when I was a kid in middle school.
Well,
and why didn't I subscribe to Animerica?
Two reasons. One,
found out.
Kid brain. And two, when I was young, our parents were very clear. We could each subscribe to a magazine. They're not going to let us subscribe to everything we want because we're kids. It'll be the sword problem.
Magazines. I had GoPro, GamePro.
Nintendo Power was the big one for us. That was like the magazine we cared the most about.
Anyway,
PC Gamer, etc. But Animerica was just the first glimpse I and a lot of anime fans in America ever had into like actual information about anime in Japan and the anime industry. It
was made by Viz made Animerica.
Yeah,
Viz was most of the anime industry at the time in the U.S. at least, so they were covering most of the stuff. So it was a little bit Viz promoty, and it did have manga in the back because they're promoting the mangas that they sell. But yeah, Animerica was kind of good actually.
Yeah,
it's
especially because not only did nothing exist even like it that we had access to, but it was very informative, very well written, and it was also, while it was a little like it would focus on anime that Viz was involved with, it was also not as consumerist as the comic book stuff in America at the time.
They would put fan stuff in, usual stuff, letters columns, right? All kind.
Yep. In retrospect, there were photos from conventions, but I guess I just assumed they were all like Star Trek conventions. Like I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know, but
I blame a lot of that on Kid Brain.
There's also Animerica Extra. Animerica Extra was just manga, and it was like a few chapters of a few different manga, like compiled, but not as thick as like a real Shonen Jump was. So that was a thing. And what I find really interesting is I remember specifically, like, was it 2004 or 5? It's like there was like the anime boom, and anime was huge. You would think Animerica would keep going, but actually at the anime boom, like at the peak, they stopped it. And I think what happened, if I remember correctly, is everyone who had a subscription, they ran out your subscription with issues of Shoujo Beat instead.
Oh, that's really common in the magazine industry. So remember the Disney thing we were talking about? They just ended it one day, and everyone who was subscribed didn't get a refund. They just got Sports Illustrated for kids until the subscription ran out.
Yeah, it's like they stopped doing, Animerica and Animerica Extra, and they just did Shonen Jump and Shoujo Beat as, manga compilation things only. And I think, you just got those instead. I remember at the convention, we were like at Otakon, and like they were like subscribe to Shoujo Beat stuff going on, right? And that was the end of Animerica.
Yep.
So the other big anime magazine was Newtype. So Newtype I didn't know about until I got to college, and there were issues of Newtype there, and there was a Japanese-only thing that someone imported, but it didn't matter that you couldn't read it too much because it was mostly pictures.
Now we talked about Newtype USA and Newtype on the show a few times because it was a moderately
Newtype USA came out while it was a new thing when GeekNights existed. So
in fact,
there may be a Newtype USA episode of GeekNights.
So there is an episode from 2008 when we reviewed Bone, and the news for that episode is that Newtype USA is dead.
Okay.
So basically, the story is we saw Newtype at RIT in the RIT Anime Club library, and flipping through it, just images of anime we'd never seen or heard of that were like upcoming, that were not available in the US yet, and a lot of text that we really wanted to read. When Newtype USA was announced...
pictures, though.
Yep. When Newtype USA was announced, everyone, like the Anime Club, us, everyone in America, anime fans were so excited about this. Finally, the Forbidden Magazine will get access to it.
If you looked at a Newtype in the early 2000s, if you just had one,
it was like this big format, like glossy
for a
printing.
Japanese person, it would be no big deal. But for someone outside of Japan who was a fan of anime and manga, seeing one of those things, it was like the print quality, the size of it, the colors on it. It was just this it was like an art book, basically. It was almost like getting a few pages of art book from every different anime art book, and you could somehow get that monthly. It was just like this unbelievable thing. You wouldn't treat it like some piece of shit magazine like an Animerica and recycle it, right?
So
you'd be like, whoa.
So fast forward,
I got a Newtype.
Newtype USA comes out. Everyone we knew pre-ordered subscriptions to it, and it wasn't cheap. It was real expensive. And we got the first issue. And what I remember is as I was flipping through it and looking at the pictures, I felt really good. But then I read the words, and the words were nothing. There was nothing in that magazine. It was just pictures. It didn't say anything at all. It did not share any useful information.
Like, hey, this new anime is coming out. Here's all the characters drawn from every different angle.
Yep.
The
text,
designer.
the text under a caption for an image of a character would be like, "This is character so and so. She is very important in the show," and that's it.
Yep.
The interviews were the most
magazine
insipid.
is really useful for artists, cosplayers, especially to get reference
Yep.
for things like that. But and just to look at and see what it was. It serves the same purpose as like Anime Chart serves now, right? You could judge anime using a Newtype instead of animechart.net or whatever.
Yep.
But as a magazine, it left a lot to be desired text content wise.
Yeah, and it cratered pretty hard as everyone in America simultaneously realized that even if you don't read or speak any Japanese, you get the same information out of the Japanese version as you do out of the very expensive American version.
Yeah, and it was very expensive either way, right? Because it was so big and fancy and colorful. Now, the Japanese one did actually include manga in it. And manga that were not available, anywhere else, right? Or at least not anywhere else easily. So most famously, 5-star stories, right? Which is a huge deal, as it is a fascinating topic in its own right. But 5-star stories is from Newtype Magazine originally. Full Metal Panic also originally from Newtype Magazine. And I think what's really funny is that Newtype is named after new types from Gundam. And I don't think there was any Gundam. I mean, there have been plenty of issues in there with Gundam stuff, right? But manga-wise, I don't think there was any Gundam manga published in Newtype Magazine. So that's interesting.
Yep.
Right? But yeah, it was, they didn't do that with Newtype USA. They didn't there wasn't a manga in it that you couldn't get on its own.
Yep.
Right, to sort of carry it, right? If they were like, Newtype USA had included 5-star stories, like the way in the same original order that the original Newtype did, that's a really strong manga that if people read, might have kept buying just to read that, right? So anyway.
Yep.
As Newtype was.
But I guess the part of Newtype's failure was that insipid level of information was coupled with the fact that was around the time when digital fan subs appeared for real and like really grew, and also legit ways to watch anime made it everywhere, and there were websites that actually had real information about anime that you could just look at.
The Newtype USA magazine specifically came too late. If somebody maybe 5 to 10 years earlier had just translated and published Newtype Japan in English directly.
Oh my God. If I could have gotten Newtype in English.
I think that would have been much more successful.
When I was in middle school.
It would have been expensive.
But I could have gotten Newtype in English in elementary school when I was obsessed with anime, and I would have that would have been the only thing I wanted for Christmas.
If I would have seen Newtype on the shelf at the bookstore in the 90s, I don't think anyone was good. I wasn't going to mess up and not buy that.
Yeah.
Unless it was $40 or something.
Yep. And at that point, that insipid, useless information would have been more than I had access to at the time.
Right. So there was an anime magazine that also appeared very briefly around when I was in college that I did buy because it was issue number 1 came out when I was in college. And I was like, oh, a new anime magazine. It was called Anime Insider, I think. And I bought the first issue and I bought the second issue and never bought it again because it was basically Wizard Magazine, but for anime, but worse.
Yeah.
It was so like nothing as far as content wise. It was just like ads and stuff. It should have been something that to give you for free. But it existed, and I remember it because I bought it off the newsstand like maybe two or three times when it was new, and then stopped buying it. But I just remember it clearly because I was like, "Whoa, a new anime magazine!" Right? And I guess I feel personally, I like to start with a number 1 of something. So something bad that just happens to be number 1, like I'll choose that over Animerica number 100.
Yeah,
for some reason, right? But what I think so the last one, does it still exist today, Otaku USA?
I don't know, actually.
Does Otaku USA still exist?
It looks like there's a website.
The sole surviving anime and manga magazine in the United States. And their website had things posted today.
There you go.
So,
Nike releases some Gundam Unicorn sneakers.
Yep. So yeah, I think this might still, if the website still exists, you can subscribe to it on their website. They'll sell it to you. So
the great and honorable Patrick Macias is still listed as the editor.
Yep. Cool. I mean this is still a thing. If you want like actual anime articles, content, editorial, right, that comes 6 times a year. I don't know if it's just anime. I think it's all things otaku. Even their website, has headers for games, manga, cosplay.
I think
events,
just
and
between
more.
Otaku USA and Anime News Network, your cup overfloweth.
Right. So, but Otaku USA is still a thing. You can get deep dives, real magazine level, articles about otaku shit in English. I'd actually, even though I know people who've written for it, worked on it, I've met Patrick Macias briefly one time. Right. I know it's existed for many, many years. I've never read a single issue of Otaku USA magazine. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I've never read it even once.
Oh God, I
just know what it is.
Was it for Otaku USA? So way, way, way back, I wrote it was just published. I wrote for one of these magazines a review of an early Otakon, as a podcaster. And I don't remember which of these magazines it was in, but it was like a 4-paragraph review that I wrote, and they did in fact publish it with my byline. And then I didn't have time or energy or care to write any more articles after that.
Yep. So yeah, if you like that,
I forget how much they paid me. I think it was like
exists,
$20.
And the subscription cost for 1 year is $16. Oh, it saves $16 a year, so it's $20 a year for the print edition. Print and digital combo, $25 a year. That's not expensive at all. If you go for 2 years, they'll give you a free T-shirt too. So, and that gets you 6 issues. 20 divided by 6. That's like $2 or $3 an issue, right? That doesn't seem bad at all. If you like it, go get it. But yeah, magazines as a whole are mostly dead. We'll talk about that next Thursday.
Yep.
Because next Tuesday we're doing gaming magazines.
Yep. And I guess next Thursday we're doing magazines.
That's right.
Talk about some Reader's Digest and some
time in life. Some people and also some meta, right? Magazines as a thing. So yeah, magazine. September is magazine half month.
Highlights, Sports Illustrated for kids.
Yeah. Regular Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I read the Sports Illustrated for kids when we get to that show was fucking better than Sports Illustrated.
I mean, Teen Vogue is better than Vogue.
Teen Vogue is consistently better. Teen Vogue is shockingly a great magazine. And if
Teen Vogue might be the best magazine that exists now.
If you think we're joking, we are so not joking about Teen Vogue. Go read an article from Teen Vogue and you'll see what we mean.
Even if you're not a teen, the only thing that will bother you if you read Teen Vogue, if you're not a teen, is all the ads are targeting teens.
Yep.
And it's mostly ads.
And we're done. I think it was a solid show.